And I think we are almost ready to go.
Okay.
So what I wanted to do first, I'm going to share my screen. I managed to learn how to do this today. And so there's draw an order. And where's the other one? Where's a time to swill? Shoot. All right. Ah, there it is. Excellent.
Woohoo!
So there are two books. Everyone who's in the audience, we have Sherry Harris and Cheryl Hollon, authors of A Time to Swill and Draw an Order, respectively. They're going to introduce you to two of their favorite cocktails, and we'll engage in a conversation with my colleague, Larissa. And before I throw it to Larissa, I just want everyone to know that at the Kensington booth, you can download a recipe card for the two cocktails that we're going to be making today, as well as the Kensington 2021 Cozy booklet, which is a catalog of all of the cozy mysteries that Kensington is publishing in 2021. It's adorable, for one, when it's printed out, but it's even more accessible when you download it as a PDF. So with that said, Larissa, I hand it over to you. And if anyone has any questions, just throw them into the chat and we'll get to them at the end.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. So hi, everyone. So like Matt said, my name is Larissa, and I am a communications manager at Kensington Publishing, where I work with many of our cozy mysteries. I'm here with Cheryl Hollon, who is the author of the Paint and Shine Mysteries, including Draw and Order, which releases on June 29th, a little over a month away, everywhere in our new Mass Max paperback format. And Sherry Harris, who is the Agatha Award nominated of the Chloe Jackson Sea Glass Saloon Mysteries, including A Time to Swill, which releases on July 27th in Mass Max paperback. So a little over 2 months away. And the one I'm holding up is the first book, From Beer to Eternity, and that is nominated for an Agatha Award for Best Contemporary Novel. So congratulations, Sherry, on the Agatha Award nomination.
Thank you.
So today, Sherry and Cheryl are going to be both chatting about their books and demoing some of their favorite cocktail recipes that you can sip on while we're reading one of their refreshing new books. And I'm also prepared with a fake cocktail. It is kombucha, in case anyone was wondering. And again, I just wanted to remind everyone that if you want a copy of the recipes that Cheryl and Sherry are going to be making today, you can download the PDF of the recipes at our booth. So first we're going to have Cheryl is going to talk a little bit about her book and demo one of her recipes. So Cheryl Hollon writes full-time after an engineering career designing and installing military flight simulators all over the world. Living the dream, she combines a love of writing with a passion for creating art in St. Petersburg, Florida. Cheryl is past president of the Florida Gulf Coast Sisters in Crime, a member of the Mystery Writers of America, and International Thriller Writers. In Draw and Order, the second Paint and Shine mystery, which releases on June 29th, Appalachian artist and local guide Miranda Trent opens a new murder investigation after her Paint and Shine tour group discovers the remains of a missing hiker along an ancient trail. So Cheryl, I'll let you kick it off to talk about your series overall. If you can just give us an overview and talk about your amateur sleuth, Miranda Trent.
Well, this is the series that's very, very close to my heart. It's in the middle of the Daniel Boone National Forest is the setting. And the farmhouse is actually where I lived until I was 2 years old. So my parents are both born and raised there. So it's a very special place. But Miranda Trent, my character, has been in New York City for 5 years, trying to break it into landscape rural painting. And, it's just not working. She's not even making enough money to be a starving artist. But her uncle dies and leaves her the family farmhouse. So she goes back to little old Pine Ridge, Kentucky, and starts up a cultural adventure company. And she takes her students out on one of the woodland trails to an overlook of these amazing sandstone cliffs, and they do a group painting. And then she takes them back to the farmhouse and feeds them a traditional Southern meal paired with moonshine. Hence the name of the company, Paint and Shine. So I like Miranda. She's very spunky. She has keen observational skills. And so she adds to the local investigation and helps them solve crimes that it would take them a lot longer to do. So that's Miranda. Now I am going to make a cocktail, but I'm going to make some confessions too. I'm not a bartender. I'm not an actor. I'm a writer who has been blissfully isolated for about a year. So basically I'm feral. And so this is a lot of people in for me. But the cocktail I'm going to make is called Lemonade Shine. And for equipment, you need a vegetable peeler or a knife for slicing lemon garnishes. You need a 2-quart pitcher. You need a lemon juicer. And I am like addicted to these. And you need a spoon for muddling. And I have that you should use 4 mason jars, but I'm in my mid-century mode right now. So I'm using these lovely aluminum glasses. So first thing is you need to get some mint. And then you need to muddle it in the bottom of the pitcher. And by muddling, that really means just smash the bejesus out of it so that it becomes kind of like a little mushy in the bottom there. And it releases all the mint flavor. Then you get to squeeze the lemons. Now I've done some beforehand. And the other trick is you don't put the lemon in this way. You put the lemon in this way. And then just squeeze away. And it works really well. And like I say, I did a lot beforehand. So now you add the sugar into the pitcher. Add your lemon juice. You need 2 cups of water. A little shine, like a cup. And then you stir that together. Oh, it smells good. That's good. Until the sugar is all dissolved and you can't hear it scratching anymore. So it's all dissolved. So I've got my little glasses about halfway filled up with ice. And so you want to just fill them up for you and your friends. And this is pretty potent, so got to be careful with how many you have. And then you want to garnish with lemons. And then you also want to add a sprig or 2 of mint to each one of them so that there's this nice smell of mint right as you take a sip. You want that strong smell. And there you go. Yay. Lemonade Shine.
That looks refreshing.
That does look very good. I want to chime in with a question from the chat, which is, wait, where do you get Shine?
At your local liquor store. It used to be very rare, but I can go down to the Publix down here in their liquor store and get actual Shine. You want to use clear Shine though, corn Shine or just clear Shine, no flavoring.
Did you really pour a cup of moonshine into that?
Yes.
So you really only need one drink of that. 1 cup.
So it's a quarter cup of shine in each glass. But because it's clear, it's a smooth shine. So that's what you're looking for.
Sounds delicious. So for this recipe for the lemon shine, how did you create the recipe? Did you make it yourself or?
I saw a recipe that was similar using tequila, and I started with that, substituted shine, and kind of messed with the proportion of sugar to shine until it was good.
Very good. Someone, Michelle Addo says that you'll need to recite the names of all your books. Oh, wait. Oh, Vita said, now do we get to watch Cheryl drink all 4 glasses of lemonade? And then Michelle said, I second that suggestion. And then you'll need to recite the names of all your books in order of release.
Well, so it's still knife painting, draw in order for paint and shine. Yes. Luckily, so far there's only 2.
Yes, there's only 2 so far, so very easy to catch up. Well, actually, no, there's only 1 out right now, so very easy to catch up before the second one actually releases on June 29th as a reminder. So thank you so much for that, Cheryl.
Sure.
I really wish I was hanging out with you both, drinking your
Come down here.
Come down to Florida. So the next up is Sherry Harris. She's going to be showing us a classic daiquiri recipe. Sherry is the Agatha Award nominated author of the Sarah Winston Garage Sale Mystery Series and the Chloe Jackson Sea Glass Saloon series, which she will be talking about today. Sherry is a past president of Sisters in Crime, a member of the Chesapeake chapter of Sisters in Crime, the New England chapter of Sisters in Crime. You're a member of a lot of Sisters in Crime, Sherry. And Mystery Writers of America. Sherry loves books, beaches, bars, and Westies, not necessarily in that order. She is also a patent-holding inventor. Sherry, her husband, and guard dog Lily are living in Northern Virginia until they figure out where they want to move to next. So in A Time to Swill, the second Chloe Jackson Sea Glass Saloon mystery, which releases on July 27th, Chloe loves her life mixing cocktails at the Sea Glass Saloon in the Florida panhandle town of Emerald Cove. But on a morning run at the beach, she discovers a wash-up sailboat on the sandbar that is tied back to a disappearance 12 years ago. So Sherry, can you tell us a little bit more about your series before you make us that cocktail?
Sure. So Chloe Jackson was living her best city life in Chicago as a children's librarian when she made a promise to a friend that if anything happened to him, she'd go help his grandmother at her bar in the panhandle of Florida in Emerald Cove. Unfortunately, the worst happens and she has to fulfill her promise. So she moves down to Emerald Cove and starts working in this bar, even though the grandmother isn't this little old lady she was expecting in desperate need of help. Instead, she's this beautifully put together 70-something woman that really doesn't want Chloe there. But someone's murdered and Vivi's accused. And so eventually Chloe and Vivi come to an understanding about the bar. A Time to Swill is based on an actual story that a girlfriend of mine sent me that lives down there, where this sailboat washed up onto the beach, and they call them ghost ships, but that just means they're abandoned, not that there's an actual paranormal thing going on. And it washed back out, and then it washed back onto the beach again. And so Chloe thinks she hears a baby crying on the boat and goes and gets on it and gets swept out to sea. And the adventure starts there. And later in the book, the head bartender, Joaquin Diaz, and Vivi, the owner of the bar, get into this competition about who can make the best classic daiquiri. Classic daiquiris are wonderful. They're so easy and delicious. They're not like the fruity ones you probably are more familiar with. And there's just 3 ingredients: white rum, fresh lime juice, and simple syrup. And one of the things that fascinates me about these drinks is the history of them. This was written down first in 1902 when an engineer in Havana, not Havana, but in Cuba, ran out of gin at a party. And so they substituted rum. And so this is what you need to do. You need a shaker full of ice. And then, so I don't like my daiquiris quite as strong. So I am using 1.5 ounces instead of 2 ounces. So you can play around with what you like to use. And then 1 ounce and a teaspoon of lime juice. It has to be fresh squeezed. Don't use that stuff in the bottle because it just doesn't taste right. And it's really weird. I was like, do you really need that extra teaspoon? But it makes such a difference in the balance. And then also a 1/2 ounce of simple syrup. And you can either make your own by stirring in sugar and water and heating it up, or you can buy it, which is what I did. And like Cheryl, I am not a professional bartender, nor have I ever been one. But unlike the stunt people you see on TV, you can try this at home, and you really should. So I'm going to give this a little shake. And I'm not going to toss the shaker up in the air or do anything fancy because I'd break my computer probably, or my head or something. And oops. Then you take off the little top. And I love a coupe glass because they're just so pretty and elegant. And you just strain it in. And there you go. It's a delicious, refreshing summer drink. And if you don't like alcohol, I substituted sparkling lime flavored water for the rum, and it was just as good. It was so refreshing. So that's an excellent thing to do too.
We had a question from the audience about this, Sherry, which is, can you substitute lemon for lime, or does that make a totally different drink?
It does make a totally different drink, but I bet that would be excellent too. And another thing that I found fascinating when I was researching daiquiris, the whole thing with the really sweet ones that you see come out of the machine, a man sometime in the late 80s or early 90s walked into a 7-Eleven and saw the Slurpee machine, and he goes, we ought to add alcohol to that. Thus, this whole industry was born.
Nice. That's really awesome. I really love that. I also have a comment that says, shaken, not stirred.
That's right. And another thing I found out is when you shake gin in a cocktail shaker like this, it bruises the gin. So James Bond had it all wrong. You actually want to have your martini stirred instead of shaken.
Just a wealth of knowledge about all this.
It's been very interesting, actually.
It must be really fun to research like the alcoholic beverages. Like it's like a fun part of the research for the both of you.
It is. It's been really interesting. And Cheryl, there's some distilleries here that you can go and buy moonshine from. And so, and my husband brought some white shine home, but it was a little too strong for me.
Well, there was actually in Kentucky, back in the Revenue days, and backwoods still, a soda company actually invented a soda pop just to mix with moonshine, and it's called Ale 8. And it's just a mixer. Take your shine, add Ale 8 to it, and it is delicious. It's a ginger lemon lime soda.
I've never heard of that. Is it available?
Only available in Eastern Kentucky.
Ah, very interesting.
And a strong ginger ale does kind of the same thing. It's a great balance with the shine.
I always see stuff on like bourbon and whiskey tours in Kentucky, but never anything on like moonshine tours. Are there moonshine tours in Kentucky?
Well, no, not yet. Not that many distilleries actually make shine because it isn't as profitable as, you know, bourbon and real fine whiskey. And there aren't that many more steps to go ahead and make, you know, bourbon, which gives you a bigger return. So, you know, it's economy.
Well, Cheryl, you can start a moonshine distillery and do painting classes there.
And that is exactly what Miranda is doing. She's turning a tobacco barn, my grandpa's tobacco barn, into a shine distillery. And it's fun because on that property is a spring that, you know, a tiny little private spring that I tell you is the best water I've ever tasted in my life. And that's what my great uncle used to use to make his shine. And that's why he only had to make a couple of brews a year, and he sold out like in minutes. So that was how people got cash money back in those days, by selling shine.
I actually have a couple of questions, one each for the both of you. So Cheryl, your previous series revolved around a glass artist, and I've heard that you also do glass work. Since your new series is about a painting teacher, does that mean that you also paint? And if so, can you show us something you've painted?
Oh, yes, I can. If you'll give me 1 second, I will. But yes, I do paint, and I do a lot of glass work. I'll just push right.
We'll ask Sherry's question next while we're waiting. So for Sherry,
Cheryl is so talented. She can do everything.
she's an artiste.
Yes.
So Sherry, we have a question for you. Someone asked where the Sea Glass Saloon is located, or is it based on a real town? And if so, what town, and how did you choose it?
Okay. So it's kind of based on a combination of small Florida towns. If you've ever heard of Destin, Florida, to the east of there, maybe 15 miles, is a little town called Grayton Beach, Florida. And it's just this kind of charming, it doesn't have high rises. And so I based it kind of then on that, and kind of on the more urban planned seaside Florida, which is a beautiful town if you ever get to that part of the state. So my fictional version is between Destin and where Grayton Beach is. And but the bar itself is loosely based on a bar in Destin called the Whale's Tail, which is a restaurant on top, and you walk down and there's just this open air area with a bar at the back of it. Now I gave mine walls and pictures and a big deck and stuff, but when the view from that place is stunning. And so that's what I always picture when I picture the bar.
Very cool. I'd like to go to both the Sea Glass Saloon and the Whale's Tail.
Yes.
So I'll go to the Sea Glass Saloon in my imagination while I'm reading your book. So Cheryl, show us some of your artwork.
Okay, this is a painting of my dad not enjoying Florida. He hated Florida, but this is in Sawgrass Lake, not far from me, about 6 miles from where I'm standing now. And my mom and dad came down on vacation, and I took a little snap of him because he wouldn't even walk with us. He was so mad because it was hot and he didn't want to be doing this. But it's one of my favorite paintings because it shows his full personality walking away. Yeah, I paint.
That's amazing.
Stunning. It's so beautiful.
It's really great.
And your glass work, her glass work is stunning too. I happen to have a necklace that she made, and it's just beautiful.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're all artistic in my family. And it's great. It's a wonderful thing.
So for the paint and shine mysteries, did you have to do any research on painting?
No.
You're already a painter, so you knew.
I've been taking classes since high school in oil. Now, of course, you can't do oil out on the trails unless you're just crazy. But so I switched to acrylic for the series and charcoal sketches. And it's really nice to be able to paint out in the air in the wilderness and let that inspire you. So I really love that.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take some of Cheryl's artwork and put it in Sherry's saloon when she finally makes one.
Oh, right.
Yeah, good idea. Chloe can come from, when she goes to visit home, she can drive back through Kentucky on the way and stop and learn how to paint and sample some moonshine drinks.
Well, that area is only 75 miles east of Lexington. And if you go north from Destin, you're taking I-75.
Yep, you sure are.
I actually have a couple of questions for you guys, and one of them is for both of you, since you both have series about your own characters in your series crossing paths with each other. But now I'm like, we need a crossover with Miranda and Chloe.
Oh, well,
It'd be fun.
short story would be fun.
Yes. We'll have to get on that, Cheryl.
Yeah, well, I'm familiar with that area. You know, Hurlburt is up there, and I did a marine installation up there.
That's
It's a
right.
wonderful place.
It is. That's where my husband was stationed, and we lived there for 2.5 years, I think it ended up being, and it is beautiful.
Oh, it's lovely.
St. Pete is beautiful too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. As is Kentucky, 'cause we used to live in Ohio, and my husband, when we lived in Ohio, he worked in Florida all the time at Hurlburt. And so we made many trips up and down that.
Very cool. So I have a couple of questions for the two of you.
Okay.
Sherry, I'm going to start with you first. So your first series, the Sarah Winston Garage Sale Mysteries, is set in Massachusetts. So New England is a totally different climate and totally different culture than Florida. So why did you choose Florida as the setting for the Chloe Jackson Sea Glass Saloon Mysteries?
Well, my editor at Kensington, Gary Goldstein, and I were tossing around ideas for a new series, and we talked about spinning Harriet off from the Sarah series, and we just talked about a lot of different ideas, but neither of us could settle on one thing that we both loved. And so one day he said, well, why don't you do a beach bar in Key West? And I was like, well, I've never been to Key West, but I'm going for the first time in 4 days. But I just felt like I couldn't capture Key West the way I could. I was so familiar with Destin. My parents started vacationing there in the late 80s and moved there in 92. And then we were stationed there. So I said, well, how about instead of Key West, we do the panhandle of Florida? You know, they call it LA, Lower Alabama. They call it the Emerald Coast because of the white beaches and the beautiful color of the water. And they call it the Redneck Riviera because that's where a lot of Southerners vacationed. And so he said, yes, let's do that. So there we are. It's so exciting. I love writing about that area too.
Very fun. So Cheryl, similarly, your first series, The Webb's Glass Shop Mysteries, was set in Florida. And now you've written the Paint and Shine Mysteries that is set in the Appalachian Mountains of Kentucky. So what's it like changing scenery for you?
It's actually like going home because I spent most of my summers running around my grandma and grandpa's little farm down in that area. So I got to see how Appalachia worked as an outsider and as a youngster, and just basically running barefoot all summer with, you know, cows and chickens and corn and fresh vegetables and milking the cow and making butter. It was an absolutely incredible way to grow up. And And then at the end of the summer, you know, my parents would drag me back to Dayton, Ohio, where Dad worked. And Mom and Dad actually lived in Dayton, Ohio for the rest of their lives. So it just seems natural to me to want to actually capture the not always pretty side of the mountains and the mountain folks. We have a strong Scottish-Irish background in my family. My mother was a Buchanan, very proud of her tartan. And so I just felt it really had a lot of rich opportunities. And, you know, some of the tropes that you think might be like too far out, no, they're not. I have Barney Fife for a cousin. I tell you, I think Barney Fife is smarter than my cousin. So I had a lot of fun with just kind of reliving those memories from my childhood.
I just got a question, a direct message question from the audience. So I liked hearing about how Sherry and her editor were kicking around ideas for her new series, Hook. On the topic of working with editors, have either of you received a piece of advice from an editor or editorial input that went on to really influence your writing career in a major way?
I have another interesting story about Gary and I.
There's always a lot of interesting stories about it.
Gary is a hoot, by the way. Just you need to know that.
So I had pitched a series with a gemologist to John Talbot, who is now my agent. And he is like, do you have anything else? And I was like, nope, because he didn't like the gemology idea. And he goes, well, do you have any hobbies? And I'm like, I read. And then I just kind of slowly backed away. But 2 weeks later, Barbara Ross, who writes the main clam bake series, sends me an email and she goes, there's an editor at Kensington that wants somebody to write a garage sale series. What do you think? And I was like, well, let me think it over. And the next morning I was like, oh my God, I'd be an idiot not to try. And so I got hold of John Talbot, who's friends with Gary, and it was Gary's idea for the garage sale series too. And John said, well, you need to write a proposal and I need it fast. Well, I had no idea what fast meant, but in 4 days, I sent my proposal to him, which was the first 3 chapters and let's see, a marketing study and backgrounds on the characters. And Gary liked it and said yes to the series. And so my advice is find a great editor like Gary that's full of ideas, sometimes a little crazy, but really great to work with.
I, for one, love the gemologist idea.
Well, thank you. Tell Gary that.
I will tell Gary that.
I have 2.5 books already written.
There you go. You're already ready to go. Cheryl, have you had similar experiences at all with your editor, Elizabeth?
Elizabeth is really tuned in to what Kensington's readers want. And I'll turn in, what I think is just the perfect book on the planet. And by golly, she'll come back with a few little tweaks, not big ones, just a few little pushes that really make that book, a good read for someone who enjoys these cozy mysteries. And I really admire her for that. I can't see it, or I would have done it. And I really appreciate that she can just mold it right into where it really fits cozy people.
Just real subtle, but really just helps it.
Yes.
Elizabeth is great too. We love her. We love Elizabeth and we love Gary. So I have another question for the two of you. Sherry, you're the past president of Sisters in Crime, and I wanted you to give us a little bit more on your awesome legacy project when you pass along the job to someone else.
Oh, thank you. So every past president, so you serve on the board for 3 years, vice president, president, and past president. And in your past president year, you do a legacy project. A lot of times people have done publishing summit reports or a book. And I just, when I was president, was thinking about diverse voices in the writing community and lifting up diverse voices. And so I came up with the idea to do a Pride Award that's based on a similar award that the Sisters in Crime already does for crime writers of color. And so this one is for the LGBTQIA plus community. And I'm really excited. We just had our first go this year. I was so thrilled. The board thought it was a good idea and threw the resources behind it to make it my dream a reality. And so the winner is going to be announced really soon.
Oh, awesome. When's the winner going to be announced?
Early June.
Oh, so yeah, very soon.
Yeah. So
that's a great project, Sherry.
Oh, thank you. It was a thrill to see your dream become a reality.
And to help other people in their dreams.
Yeah.
So we're closing in, it's 3:52. So I wanted to ask some more fun questions before we left for the day. For the both of you. So what is your favorite cocktail, since we're talking about cocktails and cozies?
Mine is actually a dirty martini with anchovy stuffed olives.
Ooh.
Shaken.
But not too hard. You don't want to bruise your gin.
No, very gently. But I think I'm just fascinated with cocktail shakers. My new one is copper, and it may be my imagination, but I think it tastes better.
That sounds good. I love a good Cosmo, and I have a really easy, quick recipe for that too. But really, honestly, my new favorite is daiquiris, I think, because I've been playing around with them so much. So they're perfect for summer.
It is perfect. It is. It's like sometimes your favorite changes with the weather.
Yep. Red wine in the summer, sparkling in the winter. No, reverse that.
Reverse that.
Maybe it's white wine in the summer and red wine in the fall and winter.
The new rosés are really refreshing now. You know, of 2020 and 2021. The rosés are really, really refreshing and delightful.
They are.
They're good middle ground. I also just got a question from the audience. What is the best pun in a title you've ever seen? I do love From Beer to Eternity for yours, Sherry.
Thanks.
I think my very first book about, stained glass, it's Pain and Suffering, P-A-N-E.
That is also a very good one.
Awesome.
That was really good. That was really good. I like The Longest Yard Sale too, which Gary came up with. I thought that was fun. Let's Fake a Deal. I came up with that one. They're fun. It's fun to think of funny titles.
There's so many of them. Wait, I also have drawn order, but there's also, oh, here it is. Shards of Murder.
Yeah.
Cracked to Death. Shattered at Sea. And of course, the first one of this, Still Knife Painting.
Those are good.
There's actually an app for that. It's called Pun Generator. Not that I've ever used that to come up with titles. Pun Generator.
I have used the Pun Generator a time or two.
Oh man, that is a rabbit hole. I'm gone for an hour.
Yep.
So this is a question that I feel like people always are stunned for a second because no one can ever remember. But what is the last book that you read and liked?
Oh, Four Cups Too Many by Deborah Goldstein. I just finished it last night because I needed to, and it's delightful. It is so much fun.
I am reading, it's called Drowned Under by Wendell Thomas. And it's kind of this zany travel agent character that is always getting in trouble. And she has this big extended family, all these cousins that are like brothers to her that are always bossing her around. It's a really fun little series.
Which brings me to my another question. So those are both mysteries that you mentioned, right?
Yes.
So do you tend to read cozy mysteries while you're in the process of writing one? Or do you tend to stay away from the genre while you're trying to write? Because I know some authors, they won't read cozies at all because they don't want to accidentally feel like they took from someone else's book. I'll let you go first, Cheryl.
I actually read YA fantasy while I'm actively writing the first draft. And Nora Roberts has a new one about a pandemic. Oh my God, it's really good. 3 volumes. It's scary. I read it while I was writing the first still knife painting, so that I don't get, it mixed up in my brain. This is cozy, this is YA. It's not a problem for me. So that's what I do. Or I'll read biographies.
Sherry, how about you?
So I tend to read thrillers, like spy thrillers. I don't know why I love them so much. I just read Red Widow by Alma Katsu. And if I'm not reading a thriller, I like to read some romance. I have always loved them. I loved Love Lettering by Kate Clayburn. And so I love her books too.
Yay. What has been your most creative way that you've murdered someone so far in your books? Who wants to answer that one first? What are your favorite way that you've murdered somebody in your books? Not that murder is fun or anything.
Well, actually, I'm thinking of a way. It's not settled yet, but one of the things that glass artists do is make these neon signs, because that's all blown glass. It's all custom made. So I think somebody's going to get a good whiff of maybe some poison glass or poison gas out of that. But this is still a work in progress.
Wait, so the neon
gas inside can be poisonous, and that's what causes the color. The neon and xenon and all the ons are in there.
Since you make blown glass, have you ever made a neon sign?
No.
You don't want to accidentally murder yourself in the gas.
That's a whole career, but I can live through my character in restoring some fine neon glass signage, and then there'll be an accident.
Mary, how about you? What's your favorite or most creative way you've murdered someone?
So I love vintage tablecloths. I have a whole collection of them. And in the 3rd Sarah Winston book, she, in the very first scene, she goes to see this woman and finds her, this is kind of gruesome, really, but she's been suffocated with a vintage tablecloth. So it's always interesting as a cozy writer, finding that balance of realism and not being gruesome.
Yeah, definitely. So it's almost 4 o'clock. It's 3:59. So we'll wrap this up. Thank you both, Sherry and Cheryl, for joining us today and making us some delicious cocktails. So it's Sherry Harris, the author of A Time to Swill, which comes out on July 27th, and the author of the first book, From Beer to Eternity, and Cheryl Hollon, the author of the Paint and Shine Mysteries, including a still knife painting, and then one coming out June 29th, which is Draw in Order. So thank you two for having a lot of fun with us today. And now I'm going to go try making some of both of your cocktails.
Thanks, Larissa.
Thank you so much, Larissa.
Thanks.
Thank you. thank you for being here. Thank you, Larissa, for moderating. And for everyone in the audience, remember you can go to the Kensington booth to download the recipe card for these recipes and also the 2021 Kensington Cozy booklet. And we will be back tomorrow for more activities in the Kensington US Book Show booth.
Bye, everybody.
Hey.
Bye.
Bye, thanks.